Life is a lot like cricket. Let me explain. I grew up the oldest of 3 boys in the beautiful island of Sri Lanka. My father was a lot of things. He was a respectful son to his parents. He was a loyal sibling to his brothers and sisters. He was a soldier. He was a loving husband. He was a strong father. Did I say soldier? He was a major general in the Sri Lankan army, president of his All Boys Association for his school. He was a bishop's trustee, and he was a devout Christian. But above all of that, he was a cricketer. He captained his high school cricket team, went on to Sandhurst Military Academy where he played cricket, and then when he came back, he actually played cricket for the Sri Lankan army. As a young boy, I went to watch him play cricket. And as me and my brothers got older, he actually took us to the cricket ground and worked with us on every aspect of the cricket game. He worked with us on our batting, he worked with us on our bowling and our fielding. He bought us our cricket gear. He actually worked on our posture and how we should stand and carry our bag. And in doing all of this, he actually started to teach us. He taught us the game of life through using the game of cricket. Life lived in the middle of the pitch. As I share with you today, many of you will be wondering, yeah, that makes a lot of sense in cricket. But what I'm going to share with you today actually transcends cricket and can be applied to the game of life. There are many, many lessons that we can learn from cricket, but I'm going to share with you the 4 principles. The first one is watch the bowler's arm. Watch the bowler's arm. Secondly, the first 10 runs in singles, or build a foundation. Number 3, recognize the googly. And then number 4, take your guard. Watching the bowler's arm. I remember I was a 10-year-old fielding in the slips in my first cricket match. It was the first competitive match that I was playing, and my father wasn't able to be there because duty called. So here I am fielding in the slips, and I dropped 3 catches. 2 of them were right into my hands. That evening, my father called, and as was customary, talked to my mother about how her day went, and then I got the phone, and I could hear an anticipation in his voice, and he said, "Son, how did you do?" And I said, "Dad," or "Appa," as I fondly called him in Tamil. I said, "I dropped 3 catches." And he says to me, "Son, watching the bat is not good enough. You need to watch the bowler's arm. Watch the bowler's arm." So that's exactly what I started to do. I started to watch the bowler's arm right into the bat and into my hands. And guess what? As the season progressed, I started to take more catches, and I dropped. Before the end of the season, I had become a pretty good slip fielder. And so here we go. I started to get better as I started to learn these lessons that my father taught me. I realized that not only were these lessons good for cricket, but as I was able to apply them to life. And as I applied them to life, I started creating more success. This understanding of paying attention, or situational awareness, or SA, as I would like to call it, is good for life as well. When I drive today, I don't only look at the car in front of me, but I look further ahead to see what traffic is doing, so I can slow down or pick up speed based on traffic patterns. My wife and I have 5 children. When we travel, I say to them, SA, situational awareness. It's time to get your head out of the phone and start to pay attention, right? Because not everything develops suddenly. And by paying attention, you're able to respond correctly to an issue or to be able to avoid some crisis. As I look at my life, both in success and in failure, I've actually gone back to the game of cricket to be able to draw strength from. And so my second pillar is this understanding of the first 10 runs in singles. I remember as a 16-year-old boy, we were playing, my team was actually playing in the All-Ireland Cricket Final. It was the best two teams in cricket that were playing against each other. I know that because the other team had many players that went on to play for Sri Lanka. One of them, Arjuna Ranatunga, actually captained the Sri Lankan cricket team when they won the World Cup in 1996. It was a two-day game, and the first morning, my team started to lose wickets one after the other very quickly. And so when I went into bat and I started to get ready to face the bowler, I'm a left-hand bat, I realized that my team was in dire straits. And the bowler actually pitched me around my legs. And I went after it with everything I got. And before you know it, it was a boundary. It was like I had gone after my favorite chocolate eclair, right? Awesomeness, it was a boundary. But then I suddenly realized that the situation that we were in didn't enable me to be cavalier, but I needed to put my head down and bat because my struggling team needed me to do so. My father was actually at this match, and I'm sure was thinking, son, why such an aggressive stroke so early in the inning? He had brought me up telling me, son, the first 10 runs in singles. The first 10 runs in singles. What does that mean? What it meant was that he wanted me, when I got to the middle, to take my time, to get my eye on the ball, to see what the ball was doing, what the bowler was doing, what was going on around me, to start small and start to steady and really put my head down and bat. And that's exactly what I did. I put my head down and bat so that we could actually, my team could respond with a respectable score. That was probably the highlight of my cricket career. But that lesson I was able to use much later. At 22 years old, I went to the US to study. And in the year 2007, when I was 44 years old, I started my business. It was an extremely difficult time to start a business in North America because the whole world was in a recession, only rivaled by the Depression. And here I am. My wife and I had sold our home. We had 4 children at that time, and I went to work. You know, for about 3 years, I struggled with very little to show for it. I felt like a fisherman who fished all night and came home with nothing. And so this went on, me working hard, and then in the meantime, we had another child. And it seemed like an extremely irresponsible thing to do. But in 2011, all of a sudden, the winds changed. And a customer gave us a product, a customer needed a product that I had to offer and gave me $1 million purchase order. 3 days later, they turned it into a $3 million purchase order. Wow, awesomeness, right? I'm thinking, you know, the Americans would call that a home run. But I realized that it was not time for me to celebrate. It was time for me to go to work because my young family and my fragile business needed me to focus and execute. And that's exactly what I did. I made sure that the production schedules were right, the material supply was right, the design and build was correct because the parts could actually be, the features of this part could actually be measured in human hairs. So I needed to make sure that everything was just right. And so away I went and made sure that I put the time into making sure that everything was going to be okay so that my family could come out of this place that we were in and that my company that was struggling at this point could become a formidable supplier to the US Department of Defense and its allies all over the world. The first 10 runs in singles, building a firm foundation. The third principle, or the third pillar that I would like to talk about is the fact that as a cricketer, as a batsman, you have to be able to face spin bowling. And when you talk about spin bowling, that you have to get used to is understanding a leg break and a googly. A leg break actually turns from right to left, and a googly turns from left to right. Now, why is that important? Because both of these balls are delivered with an action that is very, very similar. A batsman has to look at the wrist of the bowler or the fingers of the bowler to see the subtleties between a leg break and a googly. Even some of the best batsmen in the world are not able to recognize the difference. And a batsman is not born that way. He doesn't come out of his mother's womb understanding the difference between a leg break and a googly. Dare I say that it is something that you learn through failure. I know a lot of people. I know at least a cousin of mine, and I know a neighbor of ours that lost everything because they weren't able to discern the googly. They fell for a get-rich scheme that said, hey, send money here because, there's somebody who had a plane crash and they left a lot of money. And so, you need to send this money so that, you can become a part of this. Being able to understand the subtleties of that delivery would have been able to keep them from devastating consequences, heartaches, and headaches. Learn to read the googly. Practice discernment. The last time I was in Sydney was in 2015. I was here for the Cricket World Cup. And the Australian cricket team beat India convincingly, and then they went on to the MCG, the mecca of cricket. And there, with a record crowd watching them, they beat the darling of that particular World Cup, the Kiwis, convincingly. And the Australian crowd was chanting, Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. It was an electrifying experience. Truly the pinnacle of Australian cricket, because guess what? They had won 3 of the 4 World Cups. Only in horror, only in the March of this year, to watch in horror what happened in Cape Town, South Africa, when, because of the ball tampering issue, and the fact that the Australian leadership of the cricket team knew that, it brought disrepute, not only to the team, but to the nation as a whole. Life is so much like cricket. But I think cricket has something to offer us, and that is, there is a practice in cricket that is called taking your guard. When a batsman goes into bat, he gets up there in the middle and starts to ask the umpire for an alignment so that they can start to get aligned in the middle of the pitch. This practice, there are 3 things that are going on. There are the wickets, there is the person, the batsman, and the umpire. The wickets are like the laws of God, or the laws of a country, or the laws of a game. They don't change. What we need to do is to be able to align ourselves, and that umpire could be a coach, could be a professor, could be a teacher, a parent, a counselor, a pastor, right? And by asking for that guidance, we can start to align ourselves. The neat thing about asking for your guard is that a batsman can do this as often as they want to be able to do it. And that's the neat thing about taking your guard. And so it is important for us, when we do make a mistake, when we have failure, the way we turn the page is to be able to go back and get aligned. Because not only do you need to do that for yourself, but there are a lot of people depending on you to go back and get ready to be able to face that next ball. And so what I would say to you is that cricket, a lot of people say about cricket that cricket is a gentleman's game played by gentlemen. Cricket is actually starting to get more popular and starting to grow. There are many young girls who are starting to play cricket as well. But for me, it is not the winning that we get from cricket, but it's the life lessons that we are able to learn from it. Lessons such as paying attention, watching the bowler's arm, building a foundation, the first 10 runs in singles, practicing discernment or recognizing the googly, and last but not least, seeking guidance and being able to do that often by taking your guard. One of my favorite quotes is from an American sports writer who said, "When the greatest scorer comes to write against your name, he doesn't write whether you won or lost, but how you played the game." This, my friends, is what cricket teaches us: perseverance, patience, preparedness, focus, discernment. The list is endless, and as we press in, we'll be taught by it. Thank you.